Hello, welcome to Gardener's World. Now, I'm already thinking of next spring and planning ahead, so I'm going to lift these wallflowers that I sowed a couple of months ago and move them so that I can line them out. They'll develop into nice bushy plants. So next autumn, when I plant them into their final position, they're really nice, healthy specimens that will give me maximum flower when I want it. That's not all about next spring. On tonight's programme, Carol takes us on a journey into the rich and voluptuously colourful world of the iris.
The whole point about irises is they're so varied and so incredibly beautiful that you can create your very own pictures, your own tableau. You can express yourself by using them.
It's time to prune wisteria. Now, if you think it's a big job, we visit a gardener with a 250-foot wisteria. I shall also be planting irises here in the cottage garden. And if you want some lovely fresh salad leaves and you think the moment's over or you haven't got enough room, well, you're wrong, because I shall be planting some salad crops in a container. Let's get these wallflowers done. Now, a curious thing has happened, because although they've grown really well, quite a few are flowering. Now, they shouldn't be flowering now. I don't want them to flower now. I want my flowers next April. They're very healthy. There's absolutely nothing wrong with them. And I think this has been triggered by the really hot weather. And this is a very hot spot, south-facing. They've got baked, they've got a decent root system, and they've simply forged ahead. They're biennials, wallflowers, so you normally sow them sometime in spring, early summer, and then they develop their foliage and roots, and their flowers follow the following year. So that's why they're the second year in spring. If your wallflowers are flowering now, be ruthless. Cut them back. And that way you won't use up their energy and pay the price by less good flowering next spring. Come on. Come on. Now, I've taken the wallflowers from the seed bed, which is designed just simply to raise seedlings. Now they need more room. So I'm lining them out, because what I want to create are really nice bushy plants. You can see that if you have a clump like this, we've got a number of plants in there. Although actually I'm very happy with them. That's a nice, healthy plant. It'll be even better, those two, if they're spaced out about 9 inches apart. And that's what we're after. By the beginning of October, the best wallflowers are really bushy, strong plants. They don't have to be tall. And that way, you'll get the best performance the following spring. Now, wallflowers are members of the Brassica family. So what I usually do is line them out in the vegetable garden, in amongst the cabbages, and like here, the purple sprouting broccoli. And really the advantage of that is that you will treat them in the same way, and that's how they like it. And all the things that makes for a good cabbage makes for a good wallflower. So we're spacing these out. Important to water these in really well. As much as anything else, it washes the soil around the roots, because these are bare roots and you've ripped them out of the ground, however carefully, and it gets them growing again quickly. Now, you can do this with all your biennial flowers, whether they be Foxgloves or Sweet Williams. Lift them from the seedbed, or plugs if you've been growing like that, and plant them out to give them room to develop. And very often a corner of the vegetable garden is the best place. This is a time of transition in the garden. You have crops like the sweet corn and the courgettes coming along. The chard is really fantastic. I love chard. I love the way that it can be eaten just the leaves or just the stems and go on right through the year too. Broad beans, almost over. Almost finished those. Good carrots. These we've been eating. They're perfectly good. You see, that's nice. Slightly woody. Health and safety wouldn't approve, but I eat these with a bit of dirt. Lovely. Absolutely lovely. Peas also almost over. Nigel, do you want a pea? Here, come on. Nigel loves peas. Look at that. There you go. He quite often picks them when I'm not around. This is chicory, growing strongly. We won't harvest that for another 2 or 3 months. And of course the brassica, all kinds of cabbages and cauliflowers and kales have to be protected from cabbage whites. And they're desperate to get on it. And I found over the years the easiest way to deal with it is just try and keep them off. Well, look, there's one inside there. It's got through the little so-and-so and is laying its eggs. You can never stop nature doing what it really wants to do. It's a mistake to gear your vegetable and fruit production to one big harvest season. Inevitably, more plants come together towards the end of summer than at other times of the year, but the real secret is to keep it going for as long as possible, right throughout the year if you can. And that means sowing in succession. And I want to sow some lettuce now that will give me a harvest in autumn. And you don't need to have a big space to do that. I've got this tin bath here, which I've drilled holes into. I don't know if you can see that there are holes in there for drainage. That makes a really good container for growing vegetables, but you can sow veg in anything. An old shoe, if you've got it, will do the job. Now, I put some compost in. I've mixed a little bit of garden compost to give it a bit of oomph, but normal, peat-free, commercial potting compost will do the job fine. There we go. I have to say, this is probably the easiest thing to do in gardening. You just put some potting compost or soil in a container and sprinkle some seed. Job done. But it is worth thinking about what seed to sow. I'm going to use a salad bowl lettuce. You can have a green salad bowl or red salad bowl. They're both delicious. And the nature of salad bowl or oak leaf lettuce is that they have a mass of crinkly leaves and you cut them, cut the whole lot off, and they regrow. And on a healthy plant, you can probably get 2, 3, even 4 pickings from it. And what I like in a container is if you sprinkle the seed in there, it will completely fill up with these leaves. You just come along with a knife, cut what you want for dinner, and then there's more left behind, and that will regrow. Like all these things, sow thinly. You will not get more leaves by having more seeds. Now that little pinch of seed is plenty. And then just very thinly sprinkle them on. Okay, that's it. All I have to do now is just water that in. Now, when you're positioning lettuce, whether it's in a container or in a border, just bear in mind that lettuce doesn't germinate so well once it goes over about 24, 25 degrees. So if it's very hot, you should give it shade, but it does need light. So at this time of year, the nights are getting cooler, the days are getting shorter, you can safely put this in full sun. Now, those should give me a lovely fresh salad from the middle of September to the middle of November. But man cannot live by vegetables alone. You need colour, you need flowers. And I'm going to be planting some irises later. There's hardly any flower that gives you more intense colour than the bearded iris. Of course, they finished about a month ago. But back in June, Carol went to celebrate irises in all their glory.
At the water's edge, the straight sword-like blades of Iris pseudochorus rise up, bearing at their tops these beautiful yellow flowers. This is our native yellow flag. You see it all over the place. Every opportunity it gets to paddle, it'll be there. whether it's canals, ponds, reservoirs, any damp place at all, off it comes. There is a theory that before the last ice age, Iris pseudochorus was a landlubber. But as the glaciers retreated, the ice melted, the land became wetter, and the iris evolved gradually to live in moist conditions. We have another native iris too, Iris foetidissima. It's in the winter that we notice it, when its seed pods explode, showing to perfection these brilliant bright orange seeds. There are hundreds of species of irises all across the northern hemisphere, and though some of them love living in damp conditions, there are others which prefer exactly the opposite. They'll grow in dry, arid sites, on mountainsides, and almost in deserts. I've come to Norfolk, a county famed for big skies and an exposed landscape where the sun bakes the earth. Aren't they just devastatingly beautiful? Since the dawn of time, irises have held this allure for mankind. They've been depicted, poems have been written about them, and they feature in everybody's mythology. Iris was the Greek messenger of the gods. She delivered her message via a rainbow that stretched between heaven and earth. And just like a rainbow, they're here 1 minute and they're gone the next. All irises have these straight, linear leaves rising out of the ground, and through them thrusts the flower stem. And here are the coalescent leaves on the way up, each with a bud in its axil. But this is what you really need to concentrate on. This is the main flower, and it's always the top flower, the apical flower, that opens first. There are these 3 beautiful falls. These are the ones that lure the insects in with these beautiful pollen guides here, and this soft beard which must provide a great landing stage. And then above them are these 3 standards which protect all the inner workings of the flower.
I bought my first iris when I was 15.
Can you remember what it was?
It was Jane Phillips, actually.
She's a beautiful, beautiful
Yes,
iris.
she's one of the best, strong and stand up well in a border. Always appears at Chelsea every year.
They're obviously so happy here. What
Yes,
is
very
it about
happy.
your soil that they love?
Well, I think that's well-drained soil, which is the main thing, and it's sort of a little bit of clay in it, and they just thrive on it. Sunny spot, so the sunny spot ripen the rhizome for next year's flower. That's what you want.
Right.
You must put them in August, September, not too late. Get them established for the winter. That's the main secret.
So what happens is you see one and you think, that's got to be the most beautiful
Yes.
flower I've ever seen.
And then you go to the next one, you
else.
say the same thing.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
2 nights later, there'll be something else, and it goes on, really.
This has to be one of my favourites. This is Iris pallida, isn't it?
It's one of the best, actually. So, very good for foliage.
I love the simplicity of the flower. This is one of the forebears of all those beautiful multicoloured irises
Yes, that's
over
correct.
there.
Yes, that's right, Carol.
But isn't it incredible to think that, you know, from a plant like that and maybe 1 or 2 other
Yes.
different species,
It's unbelievable.
you can get
isn't
that
it?
huge
Yes,
range of colour.
unbelievable, unbelievable.
Just astonishing.
Yes,
Can you dig us one up?
of course I can. Just show you what's what.
Look at that. Look at your soil. It just goes almost to sand, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
it does, actually, yes. Yeah, there's the one from last year.
And where's the new one?
The new one is here for this coming next year. This is a new piece.
Yeah. With those lovely white roots.
Yep,
What a handsome plant.
very handsome plant.
You don't want to replant these, do you?
No, I don't
Can I
think.
take
You
them
take
home?
it. You can have it. Take it home.
The whole point about irises is they're so varied and so incredibly beautiful that you can create your very own pictures, your own tableau. You can express yourself by using them. They may be shooting stars. They're not here for very long, but the point is that they are beautiful. Enjoy them while they're there.
Well, I tell you, if seeing irises like that doesn't make you want to have some in your garden, then I don't know if the blood is flowing in your veins. They are fantastic. Now, we do have irises here at Longmeadow, but it's quite tricky because our soil is heavy and they must have good drainage, certainly the bearded varieties, and they need sun to bake. And I think this will do. This is the moment that you should be planting irises, and if you've got any, it's also the time to divide them. And I've got a selection here. Sorry, Nige, trodden his tail. We've got plants like this is Carnaby, which is a mixture really of pinks and apricots, which is exactly the right colour scheme for the cottage garden, which can absorb anything from white through to dark. Now, this is how you buy an iris if you get it bare root. You often get it with the leaves cut off. Don't worry about that. There's nothing very fancy about that. It's simply to make it easier to transport and also to stop it rocking. If you go to a garden centre, they'll look like this. In a pot, tall leaves, looks a much bigger plant. The real difference is that costs about £4, £4.50, and that's about £6, £7. It's much cheaper to buy it bare root. Now, you can see really clearly here that you have the rhizome, which is the sort of knobbly, sausagey bit, which stores the goodness for the plant. And then the roots that come down, which are fairly thick, fleshy, but conventional roots, which go down in and then draw up the nutrients and the water for the plant. So that's a storage system, and that's a feeding system. And then from this, a stem will come up, which is the flowering system. And the foliage, of course, is also doing its work. And it's the rhizome that must be kept above the soil and wants maximum sunshine to produce maximum flowering. It's a really simple equation. Sun in, flower out. And what this means is where I have a low hedge here, I mustn't plant it in the deep shade of the hedge. That means keeping away about a foot or so from the hedge. Assuming that your soil is well drained, which this is not too bad. You can see I can sink my trowel right down in. That's a good sign. I could put grit underneath, but all I need to do is just put it in there and then bury the roots like that, leaving the rhizome on the soil. And that's one of the reasons why the leaf is cut back, because when you have a plant in a pot, I can take this out, actually, there, you bury it. If I plant it next to it, I'm going to take, just to show you how it works. If I get the height right, I don't want to bury that down, I want to keep it up. That's easy, because you can see the rhizome is on the surface of the soil like it is in the pot. But when you've planted it, always cut the leaves back, because the roots have got no anchorage, and any strong wind could blow them over. It acts as a sail. So simply take the leaves and just reduce them by about 2/3, like that, and then like that. That will do the plant no harm at all, but will make it more secure until the roots have got down and given it anchorage. And next year, when they grow up, it'll be absolutely fine in the wind. If ever a plant was an investment, it's an iris, because not only will this plant itself last for years, but also you can divide it and divide it again for generations. So we could keep irises going here in my grandchildren's time. And I think, from that basis, they're relatively cheap. Now, you may not be planting irises, but here are some other things that you can be doing this weekend. By this stage of summer, mint is fast going to flower and the leaves are getting very small. If you cut back half your supply right to the ground, that will provoke a fresh flush of leaves. And you needn't throw away the cut leaves either. Tie them up and hang them to dry, and that will give you a winter supply. An easy but important job at this time of year is to keep picking sweet peas, especially if you're going away. I found that if you cut all the flowers off a plant every 8 or 9 days, it will go on producing a fresh flush of flowers right into autumn. Main crop strawberries have finished producing fruit and it's time to give them some attention. This is a job in 2 parts. The first is to cut off all existing foliage and clean up around the plants. This will let light and air into them and encourage fresh growth before winter. The second job is to take some runners. Choose a healthy plantlet closest to the parent and either pin it into the soil or into a pot of compost. Leave this for a few weeks until it roots and then it can be cut free, and there you have a new strawberry plant. The White Garden is one of the most recent projects here at Longmeadow. We started by making the path and then gradually have brought the planting in. We've got bulbs in there, I put in hardy annuals, then we've planted shrubs, climbers, perennials and tender annuals such as the Ami Majus, which of course picks up the spirit of cow parsley. And I'm always instigated by feelings rather than just specific plants, and the feeling I wanted to capture was cow parsley in May in all its glory, and to try and extend that throughout the seasons for as long as possible. And so I'm working on it, and it's very much work in progress, but given that it's only a few months old, I'm absolutely delighted with the way that it's developed. And hopefully I can build on it and create a white garden that will capture that essence of cow parsley for years to come. I've already put in quite a wide range of plants. And I've got some climbers in too. I've got rambling rose, clematis, honeysuckles. I've thought of adding a wisteria, but I don't know whether it would take over these apple trees. Certainly this is a time of year when they finish flowering, when wisterias really start to romp and grow. But I bet there are very few people amongst you watching who've got a wisteria that's romping to quite the extent of the one that we went to visit in Essex.
Most people have this wonderful romantic view of the wisteria, just gently climbing up and over the door, perhaps a little rose up next to it. The truth is, it's not really like that. Once it starts to grow, it's actually quite a thug. Its main aim in life is to get 100 feet to the top of the canopy in its native China or Japan, and they'll grab hold of anything that's nearby. When we came here 26 years ago, the wisteria wasn't actually attached to the wall. It was in a great big mound and came out right over the grass where we were standing, so probably about 15 feet or more away from the wall. Which pruned it with a chainsaw. It seemed a bit violent. It's the only way of doing it. And I started then to train it back to the wall, and then began to train it over. This is the Chinese wisteria, sinensis, which is one that's most commonly grown. This wisteria is 252 feet long, and it's up on this 11-foot high wall, and extends probably a bit above, so it's 13 feet. Once I started growing it across the wall, I thought then, I know what I'll do, I'll see if I can grow it right the way to each end. And that was my ambition, so 10 foot by 10 foot, each direction obviously. And within about 14 years, it actually got there. So now it's a case of just keeping it where it is and just maintaining it. I have wondered whether to grow it around the whole 2 acres. Don't think so. Well, as a wisteria hits the ground, it will then lie on the ground and it will start to root. And then I dig up that piece and I have a baby of my wisteria, which obviously as a rooted layer is guaranteed to flower. Often with the wisterias that people have, they say they never flower, and so many of them unfortunately are grown from seed, which means that it's probably going to be 15, 20 years sometimes before they do flower. This is one of the 2 varieties of wisteria that we grow in the garden. This is actually Japanese. This is one of the macrobotrytis varieties, and it has these huge racemes, or flowers, which can be up to 1 metre in length. It grows here over this pergola, which allows it to sort of drip over the edges. I always say to people, don't plant it against a wall because it looks completely flat. You need to see the way it all drops down. The wind's at the moment blowing the racemes in here, and it's the smell. It's very, very different. I think probably if you were given this, you'd never realise it was wisteria, because it's a sort of a musky, soft, sweet smell, and it actually wafts up the whole of the garden. I don't feed it, I don't water it, I don't do anything to it. I talk to it. I think the biggest amount of time I spend on it, of course, is the pruning. In July is when we normally start. It's about 2 months after the original flowering. The pruning really is more of a tidying up at this time of year. It's taking off the surplus. You have far too much of the new growths that come out. They come out looking for something to climb onto. Very twisty, tangly little corkscrews. January, February time is the time it gets its main cutting. And that's quite a vigorous cut, with everything then back to 2 or 3 buds, and that's the real shaping of it. Because this year we've had such a late spring, it's just been perfection. It really does make me feel quite emotional.
Now, you may remember that I sowed the top of the mound with a clay meadow mix. We tend to think of wildflower meadows as needing poor soil and very good drainage. It's not true, actually. You can get mixes for almost any situation. Now, sowed this in the hottest summer we've had for ages, just watered it once a day. It's done really well. It's actually better than I possibly could have expected. And this should develop into a glorious field of flowers. And of course, you can replicate that in a smaller area as you like. Now, that's it from Longmeadow today. Bye-bye.